Good evening.
Hey, look at you. You look all cute.
Oh, thank
Look
you.
at you. You must be going on vacation.
Well, you know.
You
You
got that black girl vacation hair.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready. I'm ready.
You see those things on Instagram, and the guy was on the plane, and it was like all of these black women with braids. He was like, all of them going on vacation, all of them.
Be ready.
They
Just be
all had
ready.
the same hairstyle. Like just. Hey, Nan, how are you?
Good evening, Miss Nan.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so tonight we are talking about, are you making time or are you making excuses? All right, Tasha, which one are you?
I do both. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, I do make excuses sometimes. I remember when I first had my kids, I used to use them as excuses all the time. I was like, oh no, my kids, I can't.
Hey, Gangsta E, good to see you this evening. We missed you last week.
She caught up later. She watched it.
Okay.
But I do both. I think I do more of making time, right? Like people
Yeah.
will often say, "Oh my gosh, how do you do list off the things that I do every day?" It's like, well, I make time for the things that, are important to me. And I do have quality time with my friends, maybe not as much as you. Quality time with my family and my kids. But I also do the other things that are important to me. But listen, I also make excuses sometimes. I'm not gonna front.
All right. So
How about you?
do I make time or excuses? I I guess I do both. I
I
don't
feel
know.
like maybe you don't need to do either.
I don't, right? Like I feel like I make time. I don't know that I make excuses, but I might. Like I just not thinking of any right now. Like because I don't have no kids to blame it on, right? So I just be like, yeah, I don't
That's
want.
not the only excuse.
It's not, but I'm like, I don't really find myself making. But again, you might remember something that I don't.
Well,
Well, you're not going to remember it. But anyway, let's just go to
something may trigger me.
something might trigger you. So let's just go to this book, right? It's called Unorthodox Advice for Ambitious Women, and it's written by Kate Northrup. And she makes some very important claims and statements here that I think we need to talk about because it was really for me. All right. So she starts off by talking about like we've been conditioned to believe that if we do more, we're more successful, right? And so if you're not working hard, if you're not going max capacity, then you're not going to be successful. Fallacy. And you and I are, when we got in together as partners, but just as also partners in business, we felt like, our work should not be stressful to us because it's something that we choose to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we'd be more successful or not, but at least we're not as stressed, or at least we try to be not as stressed.
No. And I also think that it causes you to be reactive in situations, right? Instead of being proactive. Because if you're always doing, you never get a chance to like really stop and either rest or think.
Right.
I mean, we've been talking about my life. I've been on like hyper for 5
A
months,
while.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm ready to stop and just think
Yeah.
and have some quiet.
I mean, and she talks about this, right? So one of the things she talks about is spending less time doing the things that don't feed you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we spend time doing things because we feel obliged to, that we feel like we're responsible for.
Yeah.
And some of these things we do because we believe that no one else is going to do them if we don't do them.
Lessons.
Fallacies.
Lessons that I have learned.
Fallacies, right? So one, let's talk about like an example. I have a friend who was really giving his time to a lot of things and people who just were distracting, not going to serve him, would never. And it's good to be a good person. I'm not saying you shouldn't be a good person to be giving and all that stuff, but it was like, bruh, you're doing too much. Like you got your finances to get in order, you got your life to get in order, and you sitting here, being the good Samaritan. Again, it has its time and it has its place, but should not be to your detriment. And so I was like, it's not feeding you. It's stopping you from where you want to be. And when they get where they're going, you're still going to be in the same place.
Yeah.
So I
I
think
mean, that could be, yeah,
making
I
an
mean,
excuse.
I'm thinking, huh?
That's making an excuse. Or
Making an
making,
excuse.
well, I can't get anything done because I got to help these people.
Mm,
Because if I don't do it, who will? That's
mm,
making an excuse. That's a real good distraction tactic.
right. I mean, I don't want to hear anyone make excuses about not having time to do anything because we all get the same 24 hours in the day, and you make it happen. Good evening, Gail. How are
Oh,
you?
Gail, it's a pleasure to see you. So good to see you.
I mean, here's one, right? I don't have time to work out because this, all,
Right.
we all have all of those things, right? And
We're all
and the
given
message
24
that we
hours.
sent out, I was like, change the language. How about instead of saying I don't have time for this, it's not a priority for me. Because that's what the truth of the matter is, right?
That's what it is, right? And
Yeah.
and what are you giving your time? The things that you're giving your time to, are they as serving?
Are they
Just
contributing to your health,
are they
your long
exactly.
life?
Right. So if
Yeah.
you're not working out, are you eating healthy? Are you what are you doing? So that's an important thing to do, right? And also what she talked about in this book was like we had this idea that if we don't do it, it won't get done. It's a very egotistical approach. It's really very egotistical and it
Is it?
stunts other people. It is. And I've certainly been around the person who believes that, and if you don't do it, it won't get done. And so what she was specifically talking to was moms. This woman, this author, Kate Northrup, is a mom, and she said, "You feel like if I don't do it right, if my kids don't get it from me, if I don't make the food, then it's just not done right." But what that's really doing is taking her partner out of the picture, and it's stunting her children
Yeah.
because they don't get to develop on their own because mommy has to do it.
Yeah. I am not that mom. I will tell you there has been some growth in a lot of the areas. Like I do sort of take the approach that I'm raising men, right?
Yeah,
I'm not raising boys. And so I talk to my children just like I talk to you, right? You've seen
you do.
it. And I do want them to be independent, to, be able to know how to take their own bath and put their clothes on and put their clothes away and, all of these things, right? Obviously, things grow and they're getting to do more and more, which I'm super excited about. But I was at a point where I felt like I had to do everything. And
Yeah,
then I was like, well, I'm not doing anything that feeds me, right?
right.
Because I also need to be fed. And so I will leave and I would say, listen, when I come back, my children might be dirty or hungry,
I
but they
have
will
heard it.
be alive.
They will be alive.
And
So Gail says a helicopter mom.
oh,
And yeah, and so and interesting, just a site a bit of a tangent. My doctor sends out regular emails, and he says he's seeing a lot more of his younger patients coming in so fragile and needing
mm,
anxiety medication, right? Because their parents have not allowed them to fail and develop on their own, but they
God.
don't know how to deal with the slightest bit of rejection,
Yeah.
right? Because they're, again, to the helicopter mom, they're doing too much, or parents, right? Helicopter parents, they're doing too much. And the downside it has on the
So
parent.
much stuff going on though. I mean, you kind of got a helicopter a little bit though. Like, you know what I mean? You gotta they have access to so much.
Yes.
You have to helicopter. I understand the point about being a helicopter mom and, not letting them fail. I think you just have to learn maybe how to be a, what is it, incognito helicopter or a, you know,
Black Hawk.
Black Hawk, something like that. But yeah,
The pandemic has added, Gail says, the pandemic has added to this anxiety and we will not know the impact for years. Absolutely. It's showing up. It's showing up in very ugly places. I think, in our society now. But I would say this: I think we did young people a disservice when everyone had to get an award. Right? There are no losers. There's no winners. Everyone gets an award. And I went to a step show at my college, my university several years ago. And when I was in school, the step show was the big thing, and they were really dramatic. They were amazing. And we went to the step show, and people got an award for best entrance, for best exit. We sat there like that was absolute trash. But you're gonna give them because you got
bragging rights. I won the step show. Period.
That's it. That's it. I won it all.
Yeah.
But every organization ended up with like 2 different ones.
She said, "Nope. If I play a kid game, I'm trying to win." I win when I play with my kids too. They have to.
Right.
They're not gonna win all the time.
So another point that she brings up in this book, Unorthodox Advice for Ambitious Women, is that no one can be successful being high performing for 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's a fallacy. She said, and she brings the point that the 8-hour workday was brought up or created during the industrial age, and that it was sort of based on machine time, how long the machine could run. But it had absolutely nothing to do with the psychology or productivity of the person doing the work.
Yeah.
And so most successful people, she says, really can only concentrate for max 4 to 5 hours.
And that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. We've learned over our time together with these unorthodox advice, the Pomodoro technique, right? Yeah. And implemented it during a work session and still do it randomly, right? But it's 52 minutes on, 17-minute break. Like literally, you set a timer, you work focused for 52 minutes, and that time flies by. But we get so much done in that 52 minutes.
And we are more productive. And you have more to pull into the tank. Yeah. So Gail says there's no such thing as multitasking. You will focus on something and not the others. Absolutely. Right?
I have this ongoing argument with my customer who feels like he multitasks. and I have the argument for him. I'm like, dude, you're missing something.
Yeah. And you can multitask, and maybe you don't multitask well.
Well,
that's the thing. Yeah, something does suffer. And so you and I wish, and I need to make it a point of probably practicing the 52-17 more often, because that's something else that she brought up, is that when we take the time to just sort of disconnect, right? We take that point, if we take that break at the point of fatigue, we'll be more effective.
I've always been able to do this. I go to bed at night, right? I've never been a night owl. You push me sometimes, right? And anything past like 10:30 for me, 10 o'clock is like really like a push, a stretch, right?
It is.
And I've always been this way. I remember being in college and like, you stay up all night studying for exams and stuff. I had to go to bed. And it's like, it's the law of diminishing returns. For me, I'm tapped out. It's hard for me to drive at night because I get sleepy,
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just not, I tap out at night. That's when I'm done. But I can get up at 5 a.m. and be super productive while everybody else is asleep.
So Gangsta E says the older you get, the less you can multitask. I like 52-17. It really was, when we implemented it, it was great, actually.
I mean, it wouldn't work for me in my regular workday because there's too many meetings and IMs and bings. But yeah, other times it's been great. But night owls sleep all day, or they just don't get enough sleep.
Well, I mean, and so that's where you and I differ. Like, so you'll go to bed at 10. I probably don't go to bed for another 2 hours after that every night, and yet we get up at 6:30 in the morning and work out.
I need more.
Say that again.
I need more sleep. I need it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's important, like those disconnections. And I think I am far more cognizant of it today since we learned the Pomodoro, is to take those breaks.
Yeah.
Like I will go for a walk in the middle of the day. I have no problem with that. I will disconnect. I will walk off. I will get water. Kind of why I like working from home so much. I did because it just allowed me to take a break
Wait,
without being in the fishbowl and having to explain what I'm doing, but still being very productive.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, in other ways in being effective, right? So, you're making time and not excuses. Is when you're doing stuff, you got to think about, do I really care about this that I'm putting so much energy in? Like, do I care about it? Is it worth it? And we got to think about where we're putting our energy and our efforts because everything ain't worth it. It's just not.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're doing right now? I mean, probably not if we have to be practicing what we preach, right? But
Well, I'm learning. So I'm going to say I'm learning. Is there anything right now that um I don't know. Gosh, and I hate that. I don't mean to sound like I'm just like on top of it because I'm not.
yeah,
But I just can't think of it right now. I mean, there's some things I don't feel like dealing with, but because I've made an obligation, therefore I have to deal with things I don't want to deal with, but I have to for the foreseeable future. But listen, I'm on the board of my HOA and
I looked around like somebody's in her living room with her.
I don't want nobody to hear. And they really require a lot. I mean, we hit the ground. And so we have one woman, God bless her, if she ever sees this, she's retired. So she's got a lot more time. I, I don't have the same amount of time. I had to say, I can't do these text message, emails, and Slack updates. We got to choose one or the other. Just, I mean, like it is, but they're very nice people.
Not as effective as it could be. I wanted to make a point about the when we were talking about allowing people to grow and not stunting their growth.
Yeah.
I'm a part of an organization and had to have a chat with, you know, one person to say, you this is their responsibility, right? I know you want to do it because you want to make sure that the meeting flows and this, that, and the other. But if it doesn't happen, you have to sometimes let people fall on their face to learn the lesson, right?
Or let them, or they just might flourish. It's
Or
like,
they might do it at the last minute and it's fine. And the
and
meeting
it's
still
fine,
goes
right?
well.
You just got to trust it and accept that it's just not that it's okay that it's not your responsibility.
Right.
And that I think is a true for employees or workers or entrepreneurs, leaders. That's a true time sucker, right? You feel like you have to touch everything. And I know someone right now who feels like they have to, and they become a clog in the system.
Hmm.
And it becomes very frustrating working with that person because you can never get anything done with any sort of efficiency.
Hmm.
So let's just say that it's just not even efficient to getting things done. And so another thing she brings up is how can you do stuff in less steps, which I think you're very good at. You're always trying to figure out
Oh,
how we
thanks.
can do things in less steps. Where we differ is sometimes you want to pay for those things, and I'm like, wait a minute. We don't have to outsource everything. Let's do some things. It's important to do some things. But she's talked about how to do things in less steps. And I think, yes, as Gail put, you got to create a plan. But then you got to look at the plan that you have. What's the results you're getting?
Yeah.
Right. So she gave this example how she has to do social media and someone would design the post, she would write the text and they'd put it together. Then there'd be an approval process and then it would go. But then the return, it wouldn't get all the that they were looking for in their analytics. So they had to review the analytics. And she was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? What are we doing? Just post a picture. I'm going to write something cute and keep going. And it was just as effective, less time. And you have to really look at how you're spending your time and what you're doing to spend your time. Did that make sense? Yes. Go with it. Just go with it.
Let's just go with it.
Just go with it.
I am always looking for efficiencies because I my life is full, right? I prefer to find some things where I can be more efficient so that I have more time to do the things that I really want to do,
Yeah.
right? And for me, right now, that's spending time with my kids while they're
Yeah.
little, right? I got a bunch of other stuff going on. I work all day and they're away from me all day. That's a long time for them to be away, right?
Yeah.
And so in those 3 hours that we have together in the evening, I don't want to be washing dishes and doing laundry and you know what
Right.
I mean? Like I want to be focused with them.
Right.
Yeah. So
And
we find efficiencies.
And I will say, what I try to do is in sort of trying to undo the mindset of like you always have to be working. In my mind, when I take the break, I will actively say to myself, you will get it done. You can take the break now and it's okay. You
Yeah.
will still get it done because you always deliver. It's okay. It's okay. Like that's an those are active words in my brain all the time because my body will just now, because I have reached that point of excessive stress, overwhelming stress, paralyzing stress. And I realized after I came out of that very stressful period that nothing, me stressing about it didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Not one thing at all. It did not change the outcome because what was going to be what was going to be. So I could have just gone through that entire time a lot easier. And I wished I had, but it's a learning lesson. And so
Learn.
now I say, it'll happen. Relax.
Yeah.
It's getting there. Yeah.
I think meal prepping is a really good example of an efficiency, right? So you don't make the excuse that I'm not going to eat well. You make the time to meal prep or do purple carrot or blue apron or
Or
whatever.
Hello Fresh.
Hello Fresh, right? And it's like I have to plan because I want to eat well. I'm not going to just be out on the run and doing whatever or,
Yeah.
getting carry out all the time.
So let's just wrap up a couple of things as we wrap up because this has been a very good conversation.
I want to hear from the audience. Time or excuses? Just type it in. Time or excuses?
Time or excuses.
More time. Are you making more time for things or are you making more excuses than you should? I mean, be real. If you're making more excuses, put it out there. Get some accountability.
In the meantime, what you should be thinking about as you look at your time and how it's being spent is one, is it serving you or is it draining you? The things that you're spending your time on.
Yeah.
And you should spend less time on things that are draining to you that do not serve you and more times on that. I mean, that seems like a basic, but until you realize
Say
that
it
too,
again. Say it again. Spend more time on the things that serve you, not things that are taking away from you, right?
right. Oh,
That's
I
good
just hit
and
something
simple,
there.
huh?
I
That's
just hit
that's good.
something.
That's good and simple.
It's good and simple, but it's unless you step back and look at where you're spending your time again, because you cannot fall victim to or check to see if you are falling victim to what I'm the only person that can do this. Only if it doesn't get done unless I do it, I'm the only person who can do it right.
Right.
That's an ego trip. That's an
Ooh!
ego trip. And I've been around those people and I know those people very well in my life. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Gail says, I'm
Taking the
taking the
time I
time that
need.
I need.
I love it.
Right. All right. So something else, how you can do it with less stress and in less steps. That's the other thing you got to think about, how you get it done in less steps. Do you need to take the 14 steps? And if you do it in 5 steps, it may not look as good, but does it get the same results? You got to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is what. So what are you going to do differently as a result of this conversation, Tasha?
I'm
In
gonna
your
go
new
to bed
braid.
right after we hang up.
You're going to do what?
I'm gonna go to bed right after we hang up. What
All
am
right.
I
I mean,
gonna do
I think
differently?
I'm
I
going
mean,
to.
I'm a work in progress, right? I think about Steve Harvey all the time. He says, God is not through with me yet. God, and Steve is doing a lot of things and he's, successful and God is still not through with him. And so that's my line tonight. I am a work in progress. I have a wonderful accountability partner that tries to keep me from making excuses, and I appreciate you. Continue to do what you do, and I will grow. How about you?
I'm gonna evaluate the number of steps it takes me to do some things, and if it makes sense for me to continue to do some things. It just may not, right? It simply may not. And so, if you are looking for accountability, partnership, support, right? You see these two Black girls get up here talk every week. What are they talking about?
Hey.
Listen, you can go and make sure you follow us on social media. You will learn more about us. Go to our website, theaqpartners.com. We are the AQ Partners, Sharon and Tasha, right? You can also sign up for our class. It's really great class in 3 sections called Change the Game. You can take the class and we are going to hold you accountable, right? We will be your accountability partners at your own speed, right? You can go to go.bit.ly/AQ class. And that's a capital AQ. So Tasha, you look beautiful tonight. I love the hair.
Thank you.
And so I'm going to say good night. Good night to everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
so
watching.
much, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody. Talk to you
Good night.
soon.